I need to. I gotta hit record on this. There you go. Audio synced. Um, so I was just recently rejected from a film festival for my thesis film, which is like the last film you make in film school. Which I'm not like butthurt about it. It's whatever. I didn't know if I was gonna get in the first place. I've been rejected from like 3 other festivals for that project. It's fine. It's cool. But I do want to like kind of air my thoughts out on how weird student film festivals are. Um, the only festival that I've ever gotten into that wasn't kind of like an end of the semester screening or everybody gets accepted and it's just a showcase was because one of my professors submitted my film, my documentary, without me knowing, which is fine. It's cool. I just got an email about it one day and he was like, hey, you're in this film festival. And it did pretty well. I won a Spirit Award there, kind of being like, Spirit Award, which was like, oh, you really captured the spirit of the festival and what it's about. And it was cool. The only issue was that it was on a Thursday at like noon, which is like my first big gripe with student film festivals is that they schedule these things at like impossible times. The whole point of a film festival is to have an audience to watch your film. Maybe you're even trying to go for like distribution if you're in like some high-end film festival like Cannes or Sundance or TIFF. So you're looking for a distributor or something, but you need people to see your film. And a Thursday or Friday showing at noon is not the place to do that because nobody can show up to that. I mean, literally the only people there were other student filmmakers and like my parents and my partner. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like disheartening when you're like, oh my god, my film got into a festival. I'm so excited. I got into the student section. It's Friday, and then you show up and everybody else is like also just as worried about their film showing as you are, and like they're just freaking out too. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird. And I wish that festivals, kind of. I understand that they have their big headliners and they have to plan everything and block everything out. But I wish that they would give student films a little bit more of a highlight because that's kind of where filmmaking starts. Like, everybody's going to go into the student film section understanding that they are student films and that they will not be perfect by any means, but a student filmmaker will feel 1,000 times better to see a packed theater and have people there to actually ask them questions during the Q&A segment. The Q&A segment's always my favorite at these things because it's like, all right, if you were a filmmaker, come up, and then like everybody in the theater stands up, and then there's like 4 people in the stands to ask questions, and then like the questions are like pretty basic. They're like, oh, what was like the hardest thing about making this? What was this? And people always ask like, what's like advice you'd give to other filmmakers? And I'm like, I don't know. There aren't any in here that aren't standing up next to me. But sure, my advice is really, this is a real question I was asking. My advice is really stupid and my partner hated it. But I told people that they should go to film school because you need to understand the rules to break the rules, which is a saying I've heard and I really believe in because it makes everybody's life harder if you don't know what you're doing. Um, and that's not to stop you from creating things. I mean, keep making art, keep being a filmmaker, but like understand the fundamentals of your craft at the very least. Because if I show up on your set and I'm here to shoot and you don't have a shot list or a storyboard or your screenplay isn't written right and I like can't help you, it's just gonna make set a million times worse because we're gonna be waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting instead of actually making the movie. So like go to film school. Don't be afraid to go to film school. Like YouTube's great, but you can't learn everything there. I definitely haven't learned everything there. I learned a lot out of film school. I connected with a lot of really talented people. And if I didn't go to school, I would have missed out on that. And that would have sucked. So I still stand by that. I stand by going to film school. It's a good idea. Another thing that bothers me and other people with film festivals is the judges. Like, I don't know who these judges are. I'm 22. I just turned 22. I'm making films for people my age because that's what I'm interested in. That's what I'm interested enough in to make a movie about it. And then these judges are like 40 and up, and it's like, you're not going to understand my queer coming of age short film because you don't understand what it's like to be a queer teenage filmmaker. Not that am. I'm just kind of giving an example of, like, yeah, like these 40-year-old, 50-year-old people aren't going to get what it's like to be growing up in this new generation. So they're going to watch my film and they're not going to get it. And it's kind of an unfair shot for me. I mean, I guess it's just as fair as everybody else, but if I'm making my movie about like the surreal aspects of looking for a job fresh out of college, and somebody else is making a movie about like a little kid and their lost puppy, and the judges had a job all their life, they're a boomer, and they like grew up when you could buy a house for a penny, they're not going to get my film. They're going to think I'm being weird or I'm like complaining or something. So they're just not going to understand it and they're not going to choose it, which is whatever. It's cool. Maybe that festival's just not for me. But who knows? I think that's something else that, like, would be nice to be able to take into consideration when I submit to festivals. How LinkedIn has like a meet meet the hiring team, and they'll like show you the person. You'll be able to be like, okay, I think they'll like me, so you don't waste your time. I think Film Freeway should have that, but for like panels of like judges, like, oh, here's who's judging this film, which I guess could open a whole can of worms of people like bribing judges, but that happens anyways. I know people that have gotten into festivals with terrible films because they know somebody, which I think is like the craziest thing in the world. Like, oh yeah, I know this guy, so like he just kind of put my film in it, and then I won all the awards because I know him. It's like, all right, well that's cool, but like, what about the people that don't know him and tried really hard, and your film sucks actually? So what about that? But whatever, that doesn't happen super often. Film Freeway, by the way, is like the website where you submit films. Like all the big festivals are on it, like DIFF, Oak Cliff. I mean, I'm in Dallas, so that's what I know. South Texas International Film Festival. There's a lot of big festivals on there. I will say there are a lot of scams on Film Freeway too. Anything named Cannes or Sundance is probably fake. Sundance might be on Film Freeway, but I would just look at that festival's website before you go submitting to the first thing named Cannes Shorts you see on there, because there are a lot of things named Cannes Shorts and most of them are not the actual Cannes Film Festival. So I think Film Freeway has like a rating system to kind of combat that. So if you're submitting a film, do your research so you're not just giving some weirdo $30 for him to be like, oh yeah, you won the best comedy award, and your film's not even a comedy. It's not worth it. Like that goes back to my original point. Like, the entire point for filmmakers is to have an audience. And if you're paying for these scam festivals just to get awards, not if you're doing it, I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, maybe you are, but like, you're defeating the entire point and you're not getting an audience. So like, cool, you made your film and you have all these laurels that mean nothing, but nobody saw your movie, so why do they care? So just keep an eye out on that next time you're trying to submit to Cannes or TIFF or something. I don't know. Yeah. There's other stuff too. I'm trying to remember my other points. I mean, keep making films, keep making art. Obviously, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from doing what makes them happy. It's the same with like painting and stuff, but it's like art is such a collaborative and community-based medium and thing that like the audience is just as important as the artist. So I don't get why film festivals, especially for students, don't give these students a chance to have an audience. And maybe people don't want to show up to student sections at film festivals, but a lot of them are scheduled on days where it's like impossible. Because the only reason that my mom could be there on Friday at noon was because it was the summer and she's a school teacher. If she had any other job where she didn't get a summer off, she wouldn't have been able to make it, and it would have just been me and my partner. And my partner had already seen the movie because they worked on it. So what would have been the point of even getting in, right? I have gotten to show it at a couple other film festivals. There's a really, really cool indie festival here in Dallas called Spacey, which is a micro cinema. It's just a guy who rents this like room in like a makerspace in Dallas, and he has a projector and some speakers, and he shows movies. And my documentary got to be part of a really cool like indie experimental little film fest thing, and that was really sweet. And that was fun because the room was full of other once again indie filmmakers, but a lot of people that really cared about indie film in the first place. The festival runner themselves had a lot of really interesting questions. Some of my friends showed up and they had never seen it, and they really enjoyed it and had a lot of interesting questions. So that was a really good, fun space to be in. And that kind of brings me to the solution to the problem that film festivals have, is that we need to kind of take back the film festival and make it more of an indie thing where it's about the film and not about the festival. I don't want to make any claims, but it does feel like a lot of festivals are out there to make their money, which, they got to survive. That's cool, but I don't like being charged $50 or $25 with a waiver for a chance to be in something. I get that that's the nature of it, but if I had the foresight, or I guess the hindsight, to know that I never even had a chance because the people watching my film can't relate to me in any way, then I'd rather not spend the money. So I think that supporting like indie film fest stuff like Spacey or Hyperreal in Austin is really cool and really important, and I have some interesting ideas to to maybe play around with on breaking down the festival system. We four-walled some films in the past, and turnouts were weird just because it's, when you don't have a platform, an established platform like all these other festivals, it's hard to get a location, it's hard to get word of mouth, it's hard to get people to show up. But I'd argue that it's pretty successful. We threw our own little film fest, and it was a lot of fun to premiere a short film that we worked on. And we just played some other shorts that all of the crew had worked on. And it was pretty successful. We did a little Q&A, and it was mostly friends and family, which, again, that's my whole point, is that it's always just friends and family. And nobody knew seeing it, which, those friends and family hadn't seen it either. But it was still fun to feel like it was just us, like we were the ones doing it. So I think that's kind of a good path to go on. But I do think festivals need to have more incentive for the filmmaker in the first place. A lot of them will have these rules in place where, your film won't show unless it's premiering at their festival. So you have to pick and choose which festivals you want to show at if you get into multiple, because the multiple festivals that you get into have that rule. You have to figure out what's the most important, which one's going to have the biggest audience, and then even that's not guaranteed to you. A lot of festivals won't play your film if you can't make it there in person, which means if you're applying internationally, you got to fly out, and they're not paying you to fly. They're not reimbursing you for that. They're not reimbursing you for lodging or meals or travel, nothing. So you have to figure that out on your own too. Even here, local festivals expect you to travel which, you know, it's a little easier because I can drive 3 hours down to Waco or whatever. But if I can't make it, then I'm out of luck. I mean, normally they need at least one person there to represent your film, so you can probably send an actor or a assistant director or even a PA, but it still sucks because then you as the director or cinematographer don't get to show up and talk about your movie or watch people watch it. So that's kind of an issue, and I think that festivals need more incentive for the filmmaker just in general, especially student filmmakers, because student films are kind of, they're like the little babies. They're the youth that we need to worry about. They're the children that we need to worry about, and we need to make sure that student filmmakers feel appreciated so that they keep making films. Because once all of these directors die out, then it's like, well, if you didn't support the student film scene, then like there's nobody left. There's no one else to make movies anymore, and then we're out of movies. I'm exaggerating, but you get my point. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll probably link my documentary if you want to check it out, because its festival run is over and it's on YouTube. So I'll post a link to YouTube. And I'm waiting on one more festival for my thesis film, and if I don't get into that, then it is going on YouTube, and I will make posts and things about that as well. This last film festival that I got denied from, I thought I really had a chance and didn't get in, which kind of sucks, but I'm learning, and I'm pretty indifferent towards it anyways. Like, I don't want to drive out there. It's small, it's not worth it. But it still sucks to get a no when you're like, yeah, I got a good shot, and then they're like, oh, this is an automated message, your film has not been selected, and we didn't even bother to like tell you why. A lot of festivals don't offer feedback. A couple do. A lot of them won't even offer feedback, so you don't even know if anybody even watched your film. You assume they did because they said no, but like with AI these days, who knows? I'm not going to start a whole thing about AI, but I do feel a way about it. But yeah, that's my rant about film festivals and stuff. All right, like and subscribe, I guess. I'm gonna turn this thing off. Peace.